Hey folks, David Stewart here. Hope you guys are having a great day. I want to talk again about Tolkien, and in this case, not Lord of the Rings, though this theme carries over into Lord of the Rings certainly, but really the Silmarillion, and the character of Melkor in the larger legendarium that exists in the form of the Silmarillion, and his rebellion against Eru. And what this thematically represents is a satanic rebellion against God. This is an extension of what I talked about the other week with the idea of fate and providence and destiny existing in all of Tolkien's stories and how different characters will make prophecies. Well, what's interesting about Melkor, who gets named Morgoth later on, is that he is the greatest of the Valar, and he really exists in a state of constant rebellion against his creator, Eru Iluvatar, the he that is alone. And again, this begins in the music, and then is just echoed in all of the things that follow. So in the music, he starts to make very discordant tones. In essence, he is the dissonance of the symphony. I explained the nature of consonance and dissonance. Consonance is a state of rest. It's mathematical relationships between pitches. The closer two pitches are mathematically to each other, the more consonant they are, and the more distant mathematically, the more dissonant they are. And you will experience this if you play, say, go up to a keyboard and play the two notes that are next to each other, a minor or a major second. That will be a very dissonant interval, and you're going to want to resolve it to, say, a third or something like that. So dissonant intervals resolve to consonant intervals. That's, I guess, the big metaphor of the music of the Valar here. And so what Melkor does is he is the dissonance. And without that dissonance, you're not going to have the full creation of the symphony, and Eru basically says that. Now, what's interesting about Morgoth is that in that rebellion, he's not doing what... he's basically rebelling against the plan, right? There's like a plan for the music, and he doesn't realize that he's actually acting out the plan in a certain extent because of the way that God's perfect and permissive will works. But rather, he's trying to make his own fate. And so one of the things you'll notice is that besides being in rebellion against how things are supposed to be, he takes it upon himself to act as the supreme being, as God. He does not swear or prophesy according to the plan and what he remembers in the music, but things that he himself will accomplish. And there's a really good example, and that's when he chains Húrin to the chair. And if you've read The Children of Húrin, this is basically the consequence of this moment. After the battle is lost, Húrin is captured, he's brought before Morgoth, and Morgoth really hates him. So Morgoth chains him to a chair. And I'll just read this little passage. Therefore Húrin was brought before Morgoth, but Morgoth knew that he had the friendship of the king of Gondolin, and Húrin defied him and mocked him. Then Morgoth cursed him, and Morwen, and their offspring, and set a doom upon them of darkness and sorrow. And taking Húrin from prison, he set him in a chair of stone upon a high place of Thangorodrim. There he was bound by the power of Morgoth, and Morgoth, standing beside him, cursed him again. And he said, Sit now there, and look out upon the lands where evil and despair shall come upon those whom thou lovest. Thou hast dared to mock me, and to question the power of Melkor, master of the fates of Arda. Therefore with my eyes thou shalt see, and with my ears thou shalt hear, and never shalt thou move from this place until all is fulfilled unto its bitter end. And even so it came to pass. But it is not said that Húrin ever asked of Morgoth either mercy or death, for himself or for any of his kin. Now, if you read The Children of Húrin, you'll see how Morgoth brought all of these things about. But what's important is Morgoth names himself as the master of the fates of Arda. So the nature of his rebellion, I mentioned that it's satanic. The point is to make your will the supreme will, right? The whole of the law shall be do what thou wilt, right? That's a satanic idea there. So the idea of the will of Morgoth is the master of the fates. It is what I want the world to be. It is what I shall bring about. So when he swears, he's not swearing by a higher power. He's not forecasting a doom according to what was done in the music. He's not being Mandos, right? He's a mockery of all the other Valar, in a sense. He's an inversion of all of them. He swears by his own power. He says, this will happen because I will make it happen. And that is a really important thing to note about the nature of evil in not just the Silmarillion, but extending into Lord of the Rings, because Sauron really is an echo of Morgoth in a bunch of ways. He wants dominion over the people of Middle-earth. He wants dominion over lands. He is described as not just being a lord, but also God to his servants. So he is basically putting himself up in the place of any kind of real deity, and wanting to be the master of his own fate, to execute his own will and his own plan on others. And that, again, is the temptation of the ring, is that you can take this power and you can order things the way that you see fit. It's your will. So again, it's this contest between a divine will and a divine plan, and your will and your plan. And of course, what Eru says is true. Everything that Melkor does only gets turned back into greater beauty and all of the things that happen. If Melkor had not done all the things he did, then Noldor never would have returned to Middle-earth and had all of the adventures they had all of the contests they had, all of the valor, all of the bravery, all of the good things that were brought out of them through their rebellion would not have actually happened either. So it's important to pick up on some of these themes. They're kind of buried in there. This one is, again, it's an extension of these Christian ideas about what does rebellion against God mean? Does that mean just not doing the Ten Commandments? No, it's more than that. It's trying to have your will be in the place of God's will. To have a plan that is you and your own is an arrogance that really is the rebellion against God. Rather than submitting to his plan, you are doing your own thing. And that is encapsulated in Melkor. And then, of course, it's echoed in his captain, Sauron, when you read The Lord of the Rings. And so you'll find that very often is the temptation of the ring. What can I do with this? If I take it and I have power, I can order the world in the way that I see fit. The wise can order the world correctly. And Gandalf being able to resist that, see, like, no, that is not correct. No one should have that kind of power. It's the same thing with, like, evil can never create. It can only make a mockery of what has come before. Because Melkor also wants to create. So part of his will is not just, I want to do things the way I see it. I want to create things. But he can't really create things. All the things he creates are an amalgam of other things. Even dragons are lizards and worms that have been twisted and increased in shape and filled with an evil spirit, but are not really new creations. The orcs are not new creations either. They are twisted elves, Uruk-hai, twisted men. So he corrupts and perverts the original purpose of things to try to make things which are new. But of course, they don't end up really being new. And through their creation, they create such an obstacle that it brings out the virtue in Iluvatar's real children and in elves and men. So elves are able to be brave and valorous because Melkor exists. Men are able to be brave and valorous and honorable because Sauron exists. And that's really kind of the heart of this interesting contest between will and design. So the total free will or attempt at free will in Melkor only produces greater glory and really shows the potential of creation. It's an interesting paradox there. So let me know what you think down below in the comment section. I have a new book. It's releasing in, I guess, 10 days. It's called Al Shafalda. It is a classic fantasy book. I don't know, classic fantasy. It's mythic fantasy. It's technically the sequel to Crown of Sight, but with new characters. It's a tragic story. I think if you like a lot of mythic-inspired fantasy, you'll probably enjoy it. So take a look at it. I'll link it down below in the description. And you guys have a great day and great week. So take it easy.